faith, family, business, adventure. This is the Phoenix Podcast with Ken Sharpe.
Good evening and welcome to the Phoenix Podcast Show with yours truly, Ken Sharpe. We have tonight a special guest, and as you know, on this show, we love to bring you people who rise from the ashes like the Phoenix. And I'd like to introduce you. Let me hope I get this right, Tinashe. Tinashe Nyamudoka.
You got it right, Ken.
And I believe your name is something we're going to have to talk about today. Yeah. But you're the founder and director of Kumusha Wines, a Zimbabwean who went into the diaspora, who's been brought up in the hospitality sector, in restaurants, in iconic world-class hotels, and has become a master of his trade. And I'm really excited to get started, so we'll get right into us. Tell us your story, Tinashe. How did you start?
Thanks for having me, Ken, and good evening to your viewers and listeners as well. Ken, we can spend the whole entire day. But I was born in Nyanga, area called Mount Mallory, but then I spent the early part of my childhood with my grandmother in the rural. Then I moved to the city to stay with my dad because my parents divorced when I was still a baby.
That must have been tough.
Yeah. Then I moved to Harare to stay with my dad and my aunt. So
how old were you?
It's probably 3 or 4, I think so. And yeah, because I moved, my aunt's husband has moved to the States, so my aunt also had a young baby, so we stayed almost like a blended family. So I grew up in Avondale.
Okay.
And I would say growing up, it was good. I won't sit here and be said like, it was tough. You had your tough moments. Maybe you'd ask for a bike or a new pair of shoes that never came easy. Still have a bite to chew with my parents for that. But yeah, did my primary.
So did you live with your aunt?
My aunt and my dad, yeah. And went to Avondale Primary School, finished there. Went to Nyanga, St. Mary's Magdalene's for my secondary education. And then didn't get the school for the high school, place for the high school there because of some shenanigans. Then I did my A-level at Sandringham in Norton. So after A-level, to be honest, I was always probably A student, not an A+. But the fact of academia never appealed to me. I could study to pass, and guys in my school be, dude, you don't read at all, but you still
get A's.
Still get A's. So for me, the schooling system wasn't really, I don't think it was designed for people like me. Well, I found out later in my life, but I never understood it then. So when I finished my A-levels, I never had any intentions to go to university. And by that time, my dad had passed away at 16, just before my O-levels. My aunt had moved to the UK. So I was just like that child just bouncing over houses. And
you were on your own?
Yeah. So around when I finished my A-levels, I think I was 17 by then, on my own. And I really never had a good support structure of like driving you. So that coupled with me not wanting to go into university, nobody cared. So I think I spent a year just at home, receiving money from the UK until the guy said, you gotta find something to do with your life because we can't. So I was staying in Marondera by then looked for a job at a TM supermarket, got a job packing shelves. And just 3 months in, the branch manager was like, dude, I don't know, you've got good grades, A-level, O-level, and you're doing this. I think there's more you can do with your life. I'll try to help you out. In less than 3 months, he was putting me on the till. I was in the cash register. In less than a year, I was already inscripted in a junior management program, which TM was running back then. They call it the junior management program. I remember it caused a real row in the organization that I was working because there were employees old enough to be my grandparents who were working there. But the guy just stood for me. He's like, you know, at this, they're looking for young people. And yeah, that's where I ended up as a junior manager right around 2008.
And then what happened next?
2008, working in the TM Marondera. And, you know, that's the year of the tough times in Zim.
Hyperinflation was at its peak.
Hyperinflation, I saw firsthand because I work in a supermarket. There was nothing to sell. Right?
So whatever you had was changing by the second.
Yeah, so I experienced that. And I was like, you know what, this is not it. I had a friend who was staying in Cape Town. It's like, dude, you know, just come here, we'll figure it out. We'll see what happens. And I'd never left the country. And I'd seen the guys in pictures, Table Mountain at the beach. I was like, okay, life is great. So I moved there, took it.
In 2008?
Yeah, late 2000 and early 2008.
Okay.
Yeah, then I moved there. It got me at the bus station, went back to where they were staying, you know. First shock was, okay, we there. There's 2 beds. Okay, there's 2 guys sleeping here. You sleeping with me here. So it was 4 of us sharing a room, right? And you can imagine the whole culture shock. Like, okay, this is the life here. So I had a bit of savings. So the first few months were like chilled. But after now, the money started to run out. Again, I needed to survive. Then you realize you're in a foreign country. You need visas to work. I don't have a visa, definitely didn't qualify for a visa. But one thing that was so lovely and I appreciate about maybe Zimbabweans or communities around, you know, when there's a community forming, you almost get information there's a way. And I remember there was a strong Zim community that I was forming. It's like, you know what, go by the foreshore, stand in queue, apply for an asylum, get your paper, go to this bank in Salt River, open an account, then go and look for a job. That's what I did. And the first place I started looking for a job was a supermarket.
How long did it take you to get asylum, get a bank account?
Dude, I spent almost 2 weeks going to the queue, not getting it, because by then...
There were lots of people?
There were lots, and they used to have a quota, like taking 60 people a day. Okay. Then you have to go to the interview. So it pretty much took me 2 weeks of just waking up, not getting and going back. But once I got straight from there, I went to the bank. They gave me a bank
straight
account.
Away?
Yeah.
Incredible. So they give you the asylum immediately?
Yeah. But obviously you have to qualify.
And then you become a local resident? Or?
No, you become a refugee.
A refugee.
Simplest terms. But that could open an account. And there was one specific bank who was...
Who was happy to open accounts for Zimbabweans.
Open account. Then obviously because I had retail experience, kind of figure the best way to start looking for a job is
supermarkets.
Yeah. So I went to Pick and Pay. They said, okay, we don't have positions. I went to Checkers, couldn't get. Went to a spa, which was in my neighborhood, and owned by a Portuguese guy, franchise. Like, dude, you've got experience, but you know, there's no job for a manager. But if you can, I've got space in the bakery. And I knew baking bread just by managing a bakery when I was here. And I said, you know what, I'll just start there, thinking like, you know, my mind said start there, grow up in the whole thing. And yeah, I think again it was almost a culture shock, Ken, in the sense that I held a position which was quite senior, but not that senior, right? Black young guy, but in South Africa there wasn't any position for a black person at most, you know, so it was almost that shock that, you know, I never felt racism or what's the correct word again? Discrimination, exclusion. Yeah. And I felt it very, very
suddenly
and harshly. And yeah, but I took it up the chin. I had a job. It wasn't paying much.
So what did you get? What was your first salary?
Oh man, they were paying me R8.50 an hour.
R8.50.
Yeah.
Back then, that's about $1 an hour.
Yeah, something like that. And it was early mornings because you have to wake up in the morning, bake bread, make sure it's out there by 7. And yeah, but I soon realized, you know, so we were 4 of us staying in the room. I think 2 of the other guys were working in restaurants. So when they come at night, they're counting
some tips.
Oh, I'm like, dude, you're making in one day what I'm making in a week. Okay. So I knew I was in the wrong place. I was like, you know what, I need to go to restaurants to make money. Started. So my routine was, after I finished my shift around 12:01, go shower, kind of tailor-made a CV. So I just walk restaurants around first, dropping CVs, Waterfront, Camps Bay. I got called for interviews, but obviously I'd lied on the CV that I had restaurant experience, so I just came short. But again, I remember an internet was like 5 rand an hour. So after I used to go to the internet shop, my 5 rand, go on the classifieds.
Let's just put that into perspective for a second. You're earning 8 rand an hour and you're spending 5 rand an hour on the internet, so you're left with 3.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm just like, there was this website where it was called Gumtree. You just put your resume, CVs. And just one day I got a call. Like, okay, we're doing interviews in Camps Bay, come through. I just went there.
This is the Roundhouse restaurant?
Yeah, Roundhouse, yeah. It was a new restaurant opening and group interview. I think I could have counted about 60 people on that day. Just going in group of 10s and everyone is talking about their restaurant experience. I'm like, shit.
How many jobs were being offered?
Man, they didn't say, but it was just like, it was so overwhelming. I'm like, okay, not again.
So there's like hundreds of people competing for a few jobs.
A few jobs, yeah. And yeah, they came to me. It's like, oh, we see you working in a bakery. I'm like, yes. But yeah, I don't have any restaurant experience. I've never eaten or dined.
So you're honest.
I was just honest. I was like, but there's a reason you guys called me here, because clearly you saw where I'm working. They say, nah, it's fine. We just, yeah. So I just did what I did. But I said, if you're looking for someone who's willing to learn and the job, I'm the guy. They called me back. You got the job. And reason I found out after was because they actually wanted people with that experience. So the ones who lied didn't get the job on the day. The ones who were just straight honest.
Pays to tell the truth. Eh?
Yeah. So, and luckily, because they wanted people with that experience, they'd started a company called Let's Sell Lobster, which was training hospitality to underprivileged or people who didn't have restaurant experience before. And the guys have gone to sell the company for huge sums of money. So we were the guinea pigs.
Okay. So you were learning to sell lobster?
Learning to sell
Which
lobster.
is crayfish or?
Yeah, crayfish. Oh, it was
the actual lobsters?
No, okay. It was like learning to sell wine, hospitality.
Oh, okay.
So they had a very detailed wine program. And so I got there, but what got me intrigued to wine, people always ask, was that because the way they taught us wine, because you'd be taught everything, but they taught us wine in a very interesting way, because they figured out, okay, most of us were Africans, and they kind of equated animals to wine.
Okay.
So for instance, they'll say, okay, think of a Cabernet like an elephant. Cabernet Sauvignon like an elephant. It's a big, bold wine, thick skin. Elephant is big, king of the all. Jungle, the cab is the king of reds.
So there was an African story in this wine.
And leopards and stuff. I'm like, dude, I know these African wild animals. So it kind of intrigued me. And I think that's the moment that I really got my wine connection. So I studied. And
so you fell in love with wine?
The concept of it, not wine.
Okay.
By then I wasn't drinking wine.
You still didn't drink?
Yeah, I drank, but not wine.
Okay. So you never tasted wine?
I don't recall tasting. Probably some Green Valley.
Okay. That's not really wine, is it?
Yeah. But that's the wine I knew.
No offense to Green Valley.
That's the wine I knew. So, yeah, I started tasting wines because we used to do tastings and visit wine farms. I never really liked it to begin with, but, because it's something I figured. So my initial learning of wine was just to learn, because I figured if you're working in a restaurant as a waiter, the more you know about wine, the more you can upsell, and the more your check is higher, the more you make.
Your tip.
Yeah. So that was my
motivation.
You
were chasing the dollars.
Chasing the dollar. But just fell in love with with the wine. I think for me...
So how did you learn? Take us back to that initial stage. So they're teaching you what, like academically, this is red, this is white, these are the different varieties?
Or these are the red varieties, Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot. No, it's not Merlot, the T is silent, Merlot,
Right.
like from the basics then. And what used to confuse me when I started was now they're saying a Cabernet Sauvignon smells like black currants.
Black currants.
Like, what's a black currant? They smell like cassis, strawberries. So that used to confuse me a lot, but I would just memorize.
Memorize the smell?
No, the
words?
The words. I could never smell it.
Right, okay.
Because I'd never smelled a cranberry.
Okay,
so
you couldn't relate to what they
I
were
couldn't
saying.
relate. But what I would then do was after, because we'd work through the night, so mornings, afternoon, I'm not working, I would go back to the spa, veggie section, just go by the fruit section, okay, plums, small plums, just like, whatever fruit I could find at the supermarket, by the herb section, just smell those herbs, just to train myself.
I
and
can
go
see
back.
now you've got a nose.
Yeah, yeah.
I've only just realized that. He's got a nose.
Exactly.
Literally, right?
Yeah.
You got both.
It's-
So God blessed you
God
with the
bless.
nose.
Yeah, so that's how I used to learn.
Okay.
And visit wine farms when I was free, and just started drinking the wine and understanding, conceptualizing it. Then, yeah.
And
just
impressing the clients, you knew the lingo, you were obviously selling wine.
selling wine and the stories, African stories. And now I sell stories, So that's how it started. Then I then went on to study wines. They put me in, gave me a bursary to study the Cape Wine Academy. And I then changed the jobs, left there, and joined the One and Only Hotel, which was a bigger hotel, much more exclusive. We had a 6,000 bottle wine cellar there.
Amazing. 6,000.
Yeah,
Is
very
that in
beautiful.
Nobu or is that
So Nobu was housed in One and Only. There was
Nobu is one of my favorite restaurants. It's a
amazing.
Japanese
Yeah,
restaurant.
so it was. I started in Maze, Gordon Ramsay,
Okay.
and there was Nobu on the other side.
Right.
And I think that's where I really found that wine is a career, is a profession, because I was in the wine department
Okay.
with the head sommelier, junior sommelier. I
So
joined
there's
as a
3
wine waiter.
sommeliers?
Yeah,
In one restaurant.
in one restaurant, whole hotel. And I was just like a junior wine waiter. They
Okay.
put me in there. So I kind of figured there's a progression. That's the first time I knew there was a sommelier. Okay,
Right.
there's a progression in wine. Again, awesome friend of mine till now, Andre Becker, was the head sommelier. He just took me under his wings. And I started studying wine. But then remember now, here we are around 2010.
So this has happened quickly. 1 year, 1-2 years, this has all happened.
2010, and Facebook is there. We're starting to link up. All my friends have graduated now. I'm like, geez, I don't have a college degree. I enrolled in UNISA to do an undergrad accounting science. So I'll do accounting science with UNISA. I'm doing Cape Wine Academy diploma. Tried it. So I worked at the One and Only for like 3-4 years. Then I moved to...
And what time was your shift? How would you work?
I would work usually, I would start in the afternoon around 2, 3. I would work until night, probably leave, get home midnight. In the morning, I used to do study. We used to go for classes weekends and just balance it between midweek where my wine studies. So I managed until 4th year. Accounting is getting much more demanding, and I'm just falling out of love with it. And I just quit with like 3 modules to finish. I never finished it. I just stuck on wine. I finished my diploma. Then my profile was also getting high. Like in 2013, I did a competition in Cape Town, 21 hotels. So I won the best young wine steward.
Amazing.
So they put me on, I think it was a Condé Nast magazine.
Condé Nast.
The people to watch.
That's impressive.
In 2014. So I got snapped by the Oyster Box Hotel.
That's
Then I
in
was-
Umhlanga?
Yeah, Umhlanga.
Natal.
Yeah, then I was a head sommelier there. And once I was at Nobu, Chef Luke Dale Roberts used to come dine with. So we were just close food recommendations. So when I was in Durban, he needed a sommelier at his restaurant with a test kitchen. And he just called me, Tinashe, I've got an opening here. I think you're my guy. I'm like, yeah, I think also Test Kitchen was the best restaurant in South Africa. And who doesn't want to work at the best? I've always wanted to be the best, and I feel you have to be in an environment where the best are, or where the things are happening. You know, if you play football, you have to be in the Champions League, right? So asked him, how much are you paying me? And yeah, he was offering literally half what I was earning in the oyster box. Yeah, I like, dude,
Tough negotiator.
This is my pay slip, and I'm sure if they hear I'm leaving, they'll double my salary. Just meet me halfway. I'm happy to join, but let's meet halfway. We met halfway, and they indeed doubled my salary.
They did.
Yeah, but it's one of those you look back. Never made sense to my partner then. Why are you leaving so much money? But I wasn't, at that point, money wasn't motivation. I just wanted to work in this environment where the best people were. So I was prepared to forego the money.
So in your mind, what were you after at that point? So it's clearly not money motivating anymore.
Yeah.
Although when you started, it was money.
Yeah.
So you're now earning enough money to live well.
Yeah.
But you realize that there's something more. What is it? What are you going after now?
I just felt I wasn't growing within, I'd say, the purpose. I had money, the life was good, but there was just something missing. I felt I needed to grow in life, in work, and I just felt there was something bigger.
So could you say now, looking back, that it was a stepping stone, that the oyster box provided that move up the ladder to go to the test kitchen?
You know what? Probably, I don't know, maybe this is going to be a longer podcast, but I can take you back. So when I'd left the one and only, my profile was rising, and I wasn't the head sommelier there. There was a guy who was there, and I just felt there wasn't any room for growth. I needed to be out of that space. That's why I took the oyster box, and geez, that guy is still there till now.
So you were looking beyond the immediate future.
Yeah, so I went to Durban, and everyone was questioning me because everything wine happens in the Western Cape. Durban is like very quiet and dead. But looking back, that time gave me time to kind of reflect what I wanted to do with my life. I knew it wasn't accounting and office jobs. I knew there was something in wine, and I knew I wanted business. And I've gone back to the earliest record I'm talking about business, and it's probably 2003s, mostly in 2009 in emails I'm communicating with my friends, like, I really want to start a business, but I don't know what it is. Then in 2014, because there was not much to do, so I was sitting at the beach, I'm just thinking, and there was a very interesting situation that happened. So the first kind of group of Zimbabweans like me who came to diaspora Cape Town, 2008, we're in 2014, this is about 6 years in, right? And I think when I went to South Africa, I was like, I'm just gonna work for a few years, watch the World Cup, things will be good in Zim, so I'll make my money, come back, right? So that's the mentality most people had. Then you realize, okay, no, things are not getting better, we're still here, you might as well make a life here. So most of the guys I was playing with were starting their own small little businesses. If you're working as a car mechanic, you've understood what they're doing there, you start your own. My other friend was working in a gadget store, Apple. It's like, no, I've opened my own Apple repair, selling my own. So I was like, I'm kind of the only one left here. I'm doing wine. Surely there's supposed to be some business for me to do around wine. And I think 3 things really stuck me. I started reading books. One book I was reading was Gary Vaynerchuk, Crush It. And in here it was, you're working, but you have to have that side hustle, blah, 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 blah. And xenophobia happened, 2014. Very serious one in KZN. Like, we didn't go to work for a week. And I'm watching the news, and they're saying there's, I don't know, the number then maybe was 2 million Zimbabweans in South Africa taking our jobs. And my brain is like, 2 million Zims in South Africa. And Facebook was starting to come through, so you'd find these big groups, Zimbabwean professionals in Johannesburg, 140, Zimbabwean professionals in Cape Town, 240. I'm like, if I come with a wine business, I just need 1,000. So my ideas, I was writing down in my journal, this is what I want to do. I'll co-brand wines, maybe sell to Zim weddings, Zim functions, and even started a Wine 263 group on Facebook that I would talk. I'm the Zimbabwean. So my whole initial idea was these Zimbabweans, when people were seeing 2 million problems, I was seeing
2 million sales.
2 million customers. So I wrote it down, but tried to convince people around me or friends in the industry. I've got an idea here. No one really bought it.
No one took you seriously.
Nah. And
So take us back to the beach. So you're on the beach, you got 3 ideas.
Yeah.
Read books.
Yeah,
You realize there's a network of Zimbabweans.
yeah,
Is that the second?
yeah.
And the third?
The third was just like seeing an opportunity where no one was seeing one.
Right.
And for me, I think the business part of me was starting to come out. I don't know, probably think it's inborn. I can't explain it, but it was. And I remember it's right down in my diary. I hope these ideas one day will be a testament of my hard work and my dedication to run
Wow.
a successful business. So I wrote this probably around 2014 March, just
8
sitting on the
years ago.
beach. Yeah,
9 years
and,
ago.
Yeah, so I would just write ideas that I had in my diary, and whatever nuggets I would find in a book in the diary. But yeah, it just died because I got deflated. Everyone thought it wasn't a brilliant idea, right? Then I left it and I moved to Cape Town in
This
2015.
is back to Test Kitchen.
Yes, so I started in Test Kitchen. So I
That's
just
in
showed
Woodstock, up on the top of the building there.
potluck at the top.
Yes, a
and,
potluck. That's
yeah,
where
the
I've been.
Test Kitchen as well.
I've been to both actually.
Yeah.
I've been to
So I was like, okay, Test Kitchen, new job, different pressures, very, very high pressure environment. So I forgot about business and all. I'm concentrating on being best sommelier in South Africa, best sommelier in the world. Very amazing restaurant. We set about 40 guests. I think by then the dinner was like $250, $300 a person. And I think Test Kitchen was really tough in that I'd never worked in a very high speed, high tense environment. And before, as a sommelier, everyone was doing everything for me, ordering stuff, costing. And here I was thrust into this, okay, dude, this
You're
is
in
your
charge.
responsibility. And my first week I was drowning. I've never been so stressed or so, yeah, I literally after 3 weeks, I went back to him. I'm like, dude, I think I still got my job there. This is tough. And because one, it was a tough environment. Everyone was so motivated, busy doing their thing and pulling their stuff. So no one had and I joined there. The previous sommelier didn't have a handover, so they had a bit of a fight. Secondly, I was, to put it bluntly, black in a white space, and there were people who wanted my position. And so I was just being thrown under the bus. Like, for instance, you'd find that, okay, there's a wine running out. Everyone knows about it. I don't know, but they're not even wanting to tell me until...
Sabotage.
Yeah, so
from
it
inside.
was, it was just crazy. It was just crazy, and I went back to the boss. I'm like, I can't. It's like, no, I wouldn't have taken you if I didn't think you're the best person. What's wrong? We can fix it. Then I said, this is what's happening. He called everyone, managers. It's like, guys, we need to help this guy. And things kind of got turned down. I got my courage, my blessings. So yeah, I never looked back from there. And I joined 2015. In a year, I had won the best wine service at the Eat Out Awards. The first time the restaurant had won it. And right after that, and the restaurant climbed up to 22nd on the World 50 Best.
In the world?
Yeah. It was, I've never worked in an environment as challenging but equally beautiful and motivating.
So it's extremely high performance.
Yeah, extremely high performance.
And the results are totally driven by each person's commitment, passion, energy.
If you look at us now,
you either you make it or you
yeah,
break.
it was you make it or you break it. And what was good about Luke, who's still my mentor, I just call him boss even up to now, was straight after the awards, he sat me down. He's like, dude, you've only been here for a year and you've already won these awards. Now my challenge is, how do I keep you here? Not just keep you here, but you keep you happy. And he trained, I recognize your ambition. I love it, but I'm not going to get in the way of it as long as your bread is being buttered. And by then, the business part was starting to kick again. So I'd seen a program that was being run by UCT, Wine Business Management.
So I just want to stop you there for a minute and talk to the audience. It's great to have a good boss.
Yeah.
But what's even better is when you've got a boss who's your friend,
Yeah.
who believes in you and supports you.
Yeah.
And he's not holding on to you saying,
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
for it.
And
So that's who Luke was to you?
that's how Luke is still up to now.
Amazing.
And he's the kind of guy, like, I was working for him, but he gave me that whole wine department. No one was like, all things I could do. And if you look now, all the top guys I work with, chefs, managers, they are running their own businesses now. And his motivation was like, you work for me, but you're not going to stay with me forever. But when you're with me, I'm the boss, but just work. So he allowed me to do the business course. And I came back.
On behalf of Zimbabwe, hat off. Thank you, Majvita Tatenda Luke, Boss Luke.
Yeah.
You've done it for one Zimbabwean. And all of those out there who are listening to this, never underestimate a book by its cover, because a diamond in the rough is just a piece of stone until it's been polished.
True, true. So when I finished the course, I was supposed to do a business plan for where I was working. So I wanted to do an in-house wine brand for his restaurants. He had like 5 then. And it's like, Tinashe, I like the idea, good, but I don't see this benefiting me. Can't you do it on your own? And remember now, my idea from 2014, when I went to business school, you know what happened? When things are just connecting the dots. So I went to business school. It was a 9 in-house program. And we were divided into groups, given a case study. And the case study was, you've got Portuguese community in the Western Cape, and you have to come up with a wine brand for them.
Okay.
And I was like, so I wasn't crazy. So in my mind, I took that Zimbabwean community philosophy, plugged it in. I was like, guys, I'm the team leader here. And we nailed that assignment even the lecturers there was like, this is so brilliant. And everyone was just looking at me. So for now, when I came back, I knew I could start a wine brand, but I just didn't know if I could start it within the working environment. Mm-hmm. So when he said, can't you do your own? It was just like, actually, I had my own.
The light bulb went on.
Yeah, it's like, okay, what do you need? You need money? I'm like, okay, I don't know where to start, but this is what I want. So it just, kid from there, started doing research. Where do I get the wines? What do I call it? And where do I sell it? Well, the selling part wasn't a problem because it just said, we'll sell it in the restaurant, right? So I needed to come up with a name, and people have asked me why Kumusha. Mm. And I can't pinpoint one, but when I'm looking back, it was a few things. Firstly, remember I said when I was studying wine, they were telling me about cranberry, black currants. Yeah. I grew up eating majanje, masau, matamba.
In Kumusha.
Kumusha. That's what I could pick up in wine. And which isn't bad, by the way, because wine, we always say, smells like something. We never say there's strawberries or cranberries. Right. It's an association. So you associate with.
So it's not like it's getting the smell from something around it.
No.
Okay.
It's like when it's fermenting, this chemical reaction releases phenols, which we then associate with something.
Okay.
For some reason, it happens to be fruits, herbs, whatever. So now you can smell a pineapple in a wine if you've eaten it or smelled it before. So that was the challenge for me when I was studying wine. But when I changed my mind to smelling these fruits, indigenous, it made me enjoy wine. And secondly was because of the Zim business I wanted, so it had to have a Shona name. Because remember, we were out there, and what was interesting, if you met someone and you start conversing, you can pick up this person is Zimbabwean. You'll be like, "You from Zim?" It's like, "Yeah." And you'll be like, the next question is like, "Kumusha Ndekupi," where's your home? So it had this nostalgic thing that came to it, and I felt if I evoked that in people,
Highly emotive, right?
Yeah.
Remembering home,
Yeah.
we're drinking wine now, we're thinking
Yeah.
about Kumusha, the
Yeah.
family.
Yeah.
So just for our viewers to understand, translate Kumusha, what does it mean?
I think
Shona?
Kumusha in literally, it's where you come from, right? Where your roots are, your origins, your ancestors are, the place where you get buried when. So it's got a deeper value meaning to us. And what I then later found out that no matter where you're from, black, white, colored Indians, everyone has roots and home and origins. I think that's why the wine brand has transcended the just being Zimbabwean, but really about a brand that appreciates your origins, your home, your roots. And yeah, once I had the name, I got the wine, launched my brand in 2017 with 1,200 bottles. Sold most of it in the restaurant, but it just blew. People were amazed. Okay, Zimbabwean wine. Okay, is it from Zimbabwe? Or people were just confused. I had to say, it's actually a South African-made wine by a Zimbabwean. It's still a South African-made wine by a Zimbabwean. Then yeah, it just events. It's just like the old adage: you start something, things roll up. Increased my production the following year. People started noticing, started getting importers, retailers, sellers, and yeah, now we're selling where? I export from South Africa to the US, the UK, Zimbabwe, Ghana, Kenya, Botswana, Lesotho, Eswatini, sell in South Africa, Holland, Sweden, Denmark. Probably global now, I can say that, right?
Amazing, of course, you are global. Yeah. You're a global brand.
And I think my first production was 2017 with 1,200 bottles. I think now we're doing in excess of 300,000 a year.
Koto, that is amazing. Yeah. From 1,000 to 300,000.
Yeah.
Incredible.
And we're just still growing and being appreciated. It wasn't easy. It's never. More so if it's a wine, which is a luxury and,
So we've got 10 minutes left, and I want you to explain a little bit about your business model. But before I do that, the World Blind Wine Tasting Championships. Yeah. Tell us about that and how Team Zimbabwe got into that. And I believe it became a documentary, Blind Ambition.
Yeah, so we used to compete in this South African leg of the tasting championship. So it's like an Olympics of wine where you got nations that fly to France, and all you do is you get there, they give you 6 white wines, 6 red wines in the glass. You have to identify the country of origin, the region, the grape variety, the producer, and the year it was made. And you get marked on those points.
And the year it was made.
Yeah.
And they blindfold you, or you?
No, you
just don't know.
You just don't know. They come with the wines in glass jars brought to you, so you gotta smell, taste, and probably that's why Zimbabweans are good, because I feel I've got that good, great memory, like you were mentioning the nose. I believe I have good taste as well. So yeah, we entered in this competition 2017, trying to get on Team South Africa, but we couldn't. But it so happened that there were 4 Zimbabweans in the top 10 South African tasting championships.
The top 10?
Yeah. And the organizer is like, you can organize your team. I'll do the paperwork for you. We didn't have the money. I think we needed about $12,000. One top wine critic based in the UK did a whole crowdfund on a site, and we raised about, I think, £10,000 in less than a month.
Great.
So it allowed us to go and compete, and yeah, we did well. You can find out in the movie how we came about.
Make sure you stay tuned.
Yeah, so that's how the documentary came about. So they're supposed to film us at the competition, but during the filming, the directors was like, but hold on, how did 4 Zimbabweans end up at the competition or being top echelons in wine in South Africa? So we need the backstory. So we traveled with them in Zim.
They came to Zimbabwe.
Yeah. So the actual, if you look at my wine label, the guy in the middle, it was filmed during that thing. And
Amazing.
the director just took a photo of me there.
So tell us about your business model currently. You're selling B2B, B2C?
It's probably B2B mostly.
Is it restaurants?
From Cape Town. So
hotels, hospitality?
Wines produced in Cape Town.
Right.
So my model is I don't own vineyards. So what I do is I lease, I buy from different farms in Cape Town, about 4 that I work with. One of which has become a partner in the business, and I produce 6 wines with their fruit. The other 3 I buy from different wine regions in South Africa just because of stylistic quality. And I then select the vineyards that I want to work with, the fruits that I want to work with. They're during harvest to help with the harvesting and selection. But my real strength comes in tasting and blending. So like from tomorrow, I'm flying to Cape Town to do my blends because we're bottling 2 wines before the holidays. So once bottled, once blended, we bottle, and production is in Cape Town. So my biggest model is at the moment is export from South Africa. So I work with partners in different countries. Like here in Zimbabwe, I'll be working with the liquor suppliers, drop imports. They then take the product from me in South Africa and distribute here. Same to every market that I go to.
So you have distributors in most markets?
Yeah. Okay. Only in South Africa, even I have like secondary distributors, but sometimes I do B2C.
Direct?
In
online? So
online,
consumers could buy online and ship a case? You have an e-store? You have an online store?
Working on it on my new website, but online in Africa is quite challenging.
Don't underestimate it, please. It's the future.
But I'm
10x,
on it.
your business will be 10x. 3 million bottles.
Very huge. Like in Kenya, most of my wines are sold online. And so that's how the model works. And yeah, you know, people asked, do you ever own a vineyard? I don't think I would put my last meal, my last cent on a vineyard. It's just like generational capital that's been built. Not a very good model. I'm comfortable with the model that I do. But I'm working on a lot of exciting projects that are coming back home, looking to plant my own vineyards as well in Nyanga.
Fantastic.
Working on a good cider project.
So you were born in Nyanga?
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you 2 questions. We've got 5 minutes left.
Yeah.
The first question, talking about Nyanga, going back to your roots, I often ask this question to my guests. And it comes from Clayton Christensen, who wrote a book, How You Measure Your Life. He was a Harvard business professor. Innovator's Dilemma, he wrote. And he says in his book, it's not what you do for your children that makes them, but it's what you don't do. He's talking to the parents, right?
Yeah.
So if I relate to your story and mine, I was similar age, 16, 17, left school, dropped out of school, started business. Would you agree with that? And how would you contextualize that in an African Shona way?
Jeez, it's difficult to say. I wouldn't know, because for me, I'm first generation, right? There's no business sense. I never grew up in a business environment. It was work, study, work, study, work, study, work. But that's when I go back to you and say, I think the schooling kind of never was for people like me who were like, we're not outcast. We just don't like the formal way. We've got our own creative way of getting into society, and being at a young age as well. And I think also my parents never had that parental at an early age. My dad died when I was 16. So I kind of feel maybe, you know, I've heard someone say that maybe, you know, early abandonment, or that feeling of abandonment sometimes pushes you through, drive you through. So yeah, I think for me it's been a learning, understanding myself. Now I know my purpose, I know my drive. Then understanding how I got there to help others who are in a similar situation, how to get there. And also, like, I'm a father now, so I have to pass on to my kids. And what do I do to them to not make it easy, but like, mold them in this? I don't want them to be business people, but there's something that I lacked when I was growing up, that molding, and not money, but just conversations and the way you do things. My kids watch what I do, are interested in what I do, and just like having an example for me. That's what I want to do. Like, even in a Zim context, I feel in a Shona or African way, we don't have that much examples, or, okay, this guy did it from scratch. So that's why I document everything I do. I'm big on socials. I throw everything, because I don't think I have a choice, but it's an obligation to do it. Because I come from a place where I don't see examples of following, so I want to create that. And my desire is not to even, it wouldn't be a problem if I don't finish to where I'm going. So most people say, okay, you've done well now. I don't see it that way. I see bigger things. But I don't necessarily want to achieve all. Then I don't leave anything for my kids to want to better me, right? But I feel like I'm in a good place, and God has been grateful. I cannot finish a conversation without saying there's parts that I can control, but some of the places or things that I've done, it's just like, I don't even remember how I got there, and it can only be one divine, right? And so, yeah, happy space, enjoying what I do. I'm just excited because the things I see in front are quite huge.
So before we close with the last question that I want you to answer, just in my own life and in yours, I really think that it's not what your parents do for you that makes you. It's what they don't do for you.
Oh, yeah.
And that's such a good lesson we can learn as parents and children out there that expect their parents to do everything for them.
Yeah.
It's people like you and me that have made it without the parents.
Okay.
And I think that's the message today. But in closing, give us a message of hope, of inspiration to our viewers out there. What's your future looking like? And what message would you want to tell them?
Like I wake up, with the smell of fresh ambition. I'm at a better place where I know myself, I know my strength, I know what I'm doing. I've got a business that I'm building. I've got 1 million people watching what I do, motivated, and makes it much more difficult because you have to better yourself. And I'm just excited, especially in a Zim context, to be honest. I see a lot of young people around doing good things. There's a lot of noise around, and one of my good friends and mentors in Zim was like, sometimes you just have to forget the noise. If you blind that, there are lots of opportunities in Zim. I see them, and slowly but surely, I think I'm coming back to Zim and see what I can contribute to the greater good.
Fantastic. Thank you, Tinashe. There's always hope of a brighter future. Come back to Zim. If you're still out there in the diaspora, this is your home, this is your Kumusha. We've heard it from Tinashe. And I'll close by saying he told me the second part of his surname is Doka, which means sunset. And Tinashe is God is with us, God is seen in the sunset. And I love that because I love watching sunsets. So today when you go watch your sunset, remember Tinashe Doka. Thank you.
Thanks,
for having.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Faith, family, business, adventure. This is the Phoenix Podcast with Ken Sharpe.